So Joe Biden is finally asked the question. Now, I have complained, I have moaned, I have bitched that Joe Biden should have been asked this question a very long time ago, but finally, a reporter asked Joe Biden about UFOs. Now, 60 Minutes has just did a report about it, CBS News, Morning Joe, etc. I mean, at this point, the topic has gained a certain degree of critical mass in regards to mainstream media. But this was something that I had been talking about for years. And you've seen the interviews, you've seen the content on this particular channel discussing it and talking about it. And so the fact that the president is just now being asked about it is somewhat surprising and on some level gets across the paucity of intellect and curiosity of our media. But Joe Biden's reaction to it is shameful. Sad, and shameful. Fox wants to call it a viral moment. You can call it a viral moment. I would call it sad and shameful. And not just sad and shameful. Almost a betrayal of his responsibilities as president in office. And I'll show you what I mean. Joe Biden answers this question for Fox News. And he answers it basically by ducking the question. I'm going to show you Joe Biden's response. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm considering this somewhat of a shameful response that should not be accepted at all. It shouldn't be accepted by media. It's not funny in the least. Our airspace, according to the reports that are coming out by military personnel, is being invaded by things that we don't necessarily know what they are. And while I've given you my assessment, I think it's us and not us, the idea that the president, after all of this military personnel comes out, after the inspector general is going after the Department of Defense asking, how on earth was something invading your airspace perpetually for months and you guys not do anything about it? Or at the very least, not raise it to the highest level necessary. How does that work? And how does it work that the president gets asked that question and just gets to run away? How does that work? What does the president know? And fact of the matter is, Obama, who just now came out and made the point of saying, yes, there's stuff in our skies, we don't necessarily know what they are, they're better than our craft, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Obama is just saying that now. Obama wasn't briefed yesterday. Obama knew this the entire time he was in office and just didn't say. So the idea that Joe Biden hasn't been briefed, I don't buy it. And the idea that he can run away with answering that question, radically unacceptable. What does the president know? And fact of the matter is, running away from the question across all media, regardless of who asks the question, should be entirely unacceptable. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. This content is brought to you by you, and I appreciate you allowing me to do it. I'm not going to keep this video all that long. I was greatly bugged by Joe Biden's reaction. His reaction to this is entirely unacceptable. Entirely unacceptable. And should not in any way be tolerated. What do you mean something is in our airspace and you as a president of the United States are going to avoid answering the question? For example, Lou Elizondo, the director of ATIP, I think he started in 2010, but the program continued after Elizondo left in 2017 in order to get this issue into the main public eye. Listen to what Elizondo says. Again, director of the program ATIP. Money put there. Harry Reid, studying UFOs. Listen to what he says.
He focused on the national security implications of unidentified aerial phenomena documented by U.S. service members.
Imagine a technology that can do 600 to 700 G-forces, that can fly at 13,000 miles an hour, that it can evade radar, and that can fly through air and water and possibly space. And, oh, by the way, has no obvious signs of propulsion, no wings, no control surfaces, and yet still can defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity. That's precisely what we're seeing.
Elizondo tells
That is precisely what we're seeing. This is the guy This is not a farmer in his backyard in rural Louisiana saying he saw no. The person who was paid by the United States government to study this is saying what he just said there. And Elizondo goes further, talking about materials and everything else. You should hear him in the video that I had when he came onto this particular channel. It's not just Elizondo. Listen to the service member. This is Ryan Graves. Listen to what he says.
Every day for at least a couple of years.
Wait a minute, every day for a couple of years?
I don't see an exhaust plume.
Including this one, off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida in 2015, captured on a targeting camera by members of Graves' squadron.
Look at that thing. It's rotating. My gosh.
Now, Graves is basically saying, we saw these things for months. Now, when Dave Beatty was on the show, Beatty made the point of showing in the logs that they were seeing these things at the very least. The Omaha, the USS Kidd, the USS, I believe, Raphael. All of these ships, or that squadron of ships, that were seeing all of the sightings and everything else. In those logs, they had that these guys were seeing these things for like a month. Well, he's making the point of saying they were seeing these things for months. So something has been invading our airspace for months, potentially years. I mean, we have no idea how long this goes back. We know it goes back at the very least to Roswell, probably before, but what's more of interest is the U.S. government's interest in it. How much does the government know? Where are the logs and documents? Harry Reid made the point that he was prevented from going after what he thought were materials by not getting necessarily the clearances in order to do it. Elizondo, Graves, both of them are talking about direct experience. This is DNI, Director of National Intelligence, former DNI, Ratcliffe. Listen to what Ratcliffe says.
Well, sure. We have lots of reports about what we call unidentified aerial phenomenon. And this actually is a program that's been in place for a few years in terms of a task force that has been there under the National Defense Authorization Act. But as you correctly point out, Maria, there's now a report that will be issued by the Pentagon, by the Secretary of Defense, and the Director of National Intelligence. I actually wanted to get this information out and declassified before I left office, but we weren't able to get it down into an unclassified format that we could talk about quickly enough. But frankly,
Ratcliffe, Director of National Intelligence. Yes, there's plenty of things that are unidentified in our skies and plenty of reports of those things. I tried to get the information out to the public. I wasn't able to get it out in an unclassified form. So you have Director of National Intelligence. You have military personnel, not just Graves, plenty of them. And you have the person who ran the program studying this stuff. All of them are saying there's something in our skies that we have no idea what they are. Now, I've made the point of saying they're either us or not, right? Either we have some separate track of technology that is running parallel, or they're not us. And fact of the matter is, it could very well be both. If the US had technology, let's say it was 20 years in advance, what would that technology look like? And what would it look like if they were able to discover, let's say, a quirk of nature? For example, electrogravitics. What if they found a way to use electricity to manipulate gravity? What would that craft look like? Would the surfaces look the same? Would the orientation and the shape of the ship look the same? It may not. So this notion of it being us and not us, that doesn't necessarily bother me with the idea that it could be some level of both. But of course, built into that idea is that some aspect of this is not us. And some of the things that we've seen in regards to the capabilities of the ships and everything else, those things seem dramatically different. But the reports of that stuff go back decades. So it's not like, modern physics figures out how to do a ship and everything. No, these reports go back for decades. Long before I would have believed we would have had the capability of doing that stuff. But the point that I'm making here is the military personnel in the government is basically saying there's something that is doing things that we have no idea how. And they are far, far superior to our technology. They don't act like our technology. And if somebody else around the world has access to that, oh my God. So when you have all of these people who are in the highest echelons of your government and who studied the issue, and all of these people are coming out saying, we don't think it's us. We need to figure out what this is either way, but we don't think it's us. It's not exhibiting behavior that we would be able to emulate. Not just not able to emulate, not even quite sure how it's being done, as it breaks the laws of physics. You have all sorts of congressmen coming out, both sides of the aisle. What is this? How is it done? And fact of the matter is, even just from the standpoint of going through sensitive military areas, it should pique a certain degree of curiosity. Is there not a certain degree of responsibility of the United States government, the president at that, to explain to the American public what's taking place, what's happening? What are these things that are invading our skies? What are these things that are going through our sensitive military installations, shutting down nuclear weapons in one other sense? If you don't know, then fair enough, but you should at the very least come out and explain to the American public what is happening on this issue. It is horrid that the media is just now getting to the point of asking Joe Biden about this, considering this has been going on for the past several years. Joe Biden is finally asked about this by a Fox News reporter of all people. And listen to Biden's response.
If you're not asking me a mean one like you usually do.
It's something interesting, I think, that has not come up. President Obama says that there is footage and records of objects in the skies, these unidentified aerial phenomenon, and he says we don't know exactly what they are. What do you think that it is?
I would ask him again. Thank you. Come on, Walt, let's go.
He ducks the question and tries to run off stage. He ducks the question and tries to run off stage. How is that not a serious question? The previous president has just acknowledged, yes, we have records, videos, and reports of things that are not concordant to our laws of physics or our avionics. It is not capabilities that we have access to or even quite know how it's being done. That's what the previous president said. Your military people are saying something is invading our sensitive military installations. The U.S. spends nearly $1 trillion a year for the military, and something is doing things that the military can't compete with, can't touch. And not just can't touch. When we see it, it's only because it's allowed. When we don't, it's because we can't. The speeds, unparalleled. In fact, if a person was in a ship, it would have crushed the individual in the first place, and the capabilities of going into water, air, and space without losing capability in either of those mediums. These are the reports. This doesn't even get into the notion of human effects, where human beings are encountering this stuff and the effects on the human physiology. All of these things are reports at this point, are clear-cut, meaning there's a there to it. If you want to make the case that this is some kind of secret, black budget, unacknowledged project, okay, fair enough. But there's a there to it. And for the President of the United States to blow off the question of what is invading our sensitive areas, what is invading our airspace, what is flying through our ships and making our ships look like toy cars, what is doing that? That is a security issue, at the very least in the way that they are dealing with it. No, I don't believe it's a threat. But whether I believe it's a threat or not is secondary to the way the United States government is regarding this issue, meaning the people who are engaging it. I'm making the point that if something is doing what those craft are doing and having the effects that those craft are having, and you have all of these people seeing it and reporting on it, then it is unacceptable for the President of the United States to not credibly, straightforwardly answer that question. And Jen Psaki should be asked that question every day until a response comes out of the White House. That is massively unacceptable as a response. Massively unacceptable as a response. What if it's us? Meaning humanity. What if it's us? And some other government around the world has just found some leapfrog technology. And what you're seeing is basically the results of that leapfrog technology. Shouldn't we know that? Shouldn't we know that? Whether it's us or not, it is a viable and a vital question. And the President of the United States, considering all the reporting that has been out about this issue, should not be allowed to duck that and just walk away and go in his basement and no one asks him about this again. Psaki should be asked about this continuously. I'm going to say like, share, and of course, subscribe. Thanks all.